Alright, welcome back. So in this video, we are gonna finish basically the CRUD procedures, and the next thing in the CRUD procedures, which is basically the last thing, that the update and delete should only be allowed to the owner of that particular comment or blog, right? So let's just start with that. So the just like we checked the login through this is logged in middleware, we are going to have to make a new middleware to check if the current person is the owner of that particular thing, right? And we'll add that middleware in the blogs. We'll add that to the edit route, to the update route, and to the delete route, right? And in the comments.js, we'll add that to the delete route, right? So let's just start working on that particular middleware, right? So I'll make the function first. So I'll do function is owner, right? Let's name it is owner, right? And I'll get rec res next. Just like any other middleware, the arguments passed in this will be rec res and next, right? So so the thing is that if we like start making this from callback, so let me just lay out the thing, the overview of what we need to do in here. So when we are getting this, right, we are in the blogs.js. The only thing we have in the rec is the ID for that particular blog. So we'll have to find that blog in database, right? Next, we will have to check the user with the current user, right? Then we'll have another if statement, right? Check. So first of all, we'll have to if logged in, right? If it is not logged in, then there's no sense in doing anything else, right? So check if logged in, find that blog in database, check the user with current user, right? And next we have if same allow to pass, if not same give error, right? So check the author, right? So this is kind of the flow that we need to follow in this, and as you can see, these are a good amount of steps that we need to do. Now if we do callback inside of callback, and then we do an if statement, then we nest something inside of it, and then we do another statement, blah blah blah, then this will become a really like this kind of a thing. It will keep on going forward, then it will keep on coming backward, right? So this you would have to do in an older version of JavaScript, but a newer version of JavaScript gives us a better method of actually doing this, which is async await, right? If you remember, I used async await somewhere. If I remember right, I used async await somewhere in the past too. So I'll introduce you to that in this particular function, right? So the thing is, first of all, we have to check if he is logged in. So currently, just add async in here. I'll tell you why, right? So we'll check if he is authenticated. Then do something else. We'll do the else part first. We'll do console.log not logged in, and then we'll do res dot redirect / login, right? Great. And now the next thing that we need to do is we need to do blog dot find by id, correct, dot params dot id, right? And now normally what you would have is you would have error found blog, right? And then you would have another callback in here. But the thing is, what we are trying to avoid here is callbacks. So we are not going to put a callback in here, right? What we are going to do is we are going to use async await. So what we can basically do is this blog.find by id also returns something which is actually the current blog. So we can do just let found blog is equal to this, right? And what this let is basically, this is equivalent to this where found blog is equal to blog.find by id, but let is just the newer syntax, right? So the thing is actually the same. And so this will now give us the found blog inside this particular variable, right? Except there is one problem. JavaScript is basically an asynchronous language, is a synchronous language, right? So what happens is, if we write 10 lines here, and this line takes, let's say it takes 2 seconds to complete, right? And the next line takes just let's say 0.2 seconds to complete. Then this next line will not wait for this line to complete before it starts executing. And hence, this will start executing before this thing has finished, right? But in our case, what the thing is, we need this found blog for the further code, right? We cannot work for the further code without this found blog. And this blog.find by ID, we're actually accessing something from the database. So it does take some time, right? So how do we actually tell JavaScript to wait for this to finish and then move to the next line? So that is what async and await is all about, right? So by basically writing async here, we made this function an asynchronous function, meaning that every line, whenever we are telling it to, should complete before we move on to the next line, right? So if I write await here, so now what will happen is, first JavaScript will wait for this line to get complete, and then it will move on to the next line, whatever it is, right? And this way the blog will always be found easily, right? Great. And the thing is that you cannot use await in a function which does not have async here, right? So in whichever function you are using await, you need to put async before the function, right? And this way it would work. So now you see we have avoided one callback here by writing this, and further we can just use if found blog, right? And this will work perfectly fine. So we have avoided a callback, right? We can do if found blog, if not found blog, or we could this is an error, so we'll handle this later. So we can do if found blog dot author. So author currently has the ID, right? And now we can do dot equals. So this is basically another method for just comparing if two IDs are equal, right? So I can do found blog dot author dot equals rec dot user dot underscore ID, right? So if this is true, then we are basically logged in as the author of the current thing, whatever it is, the current blog, right? Then we have to do return next, meaning continue with whatever you are doing, right? There's no issue. And else we have to do, let's do an alert. Not authorized, right? And then we'll do res dot redirect back. So this is one more new thing, res dot redirect back. What it does is it just takes you back one page wherever you were, right? It does not specifically take you to one page. So this will just take you back one page to wherever you came from, right? So this is done, and we have now done that. If we are the current author, then let it be that, and else do not let him go there, right? Great. So this is the else, and this is basically all that we needed to have, right? So now this function is complete except one small error, right? When we were using callbacks in this, we were checking for the errors, but in here we are not checking for the errors, and we're not even getting the error back. So how do we handle this? So this is done through something known as try catch. So in this video, I'm basically introducing a lot of new things really quickly, right? And the reason that is that I want you to know this newer syntax. Even if you follow the older syntax to do these steps, I'm sure you will be able to do it. Then it will work just fine. But this newer syntax is something that you might see in the industry a lot, right? So that's why I'm introducing this to you. So what we can do is we can put everything that we've written here inside a try, right? and then we can do catch error console.login. So what happens is everything that is inside is try. First, JavaScript tries to run all of this one by one. But if any error is encountered while executing any of these lines, then it moves here and it prints that error to the console, right? So this is basically all that is happening. And we can see that this isOwner function is now complete. And this is all that we wanted to do. Excellent. So now we can just put this middleware inside our delete. First of all, let's do that. Is owner. We'll put the middleware in the update. So these cannot be accessed if we put the middleware in the form, of course, but again, we are preventing people to access these update and delete routes from Postman too, right? And let's do is owner. Excellent. So now we have this, and this is checking the owner usership for the blogs, right? And the only thing we need now is that we need to hide the buttons that we had, right, on the show page, update and delete buttons, if there's like they are not authorized to go there, because that does not make sense to show them. So I'll go to the show.ejs, and this is the update post and the delete post button. So what I'll do is I'll put I'll do if current user dot id underscore id, right, equals blog. So this is named blog, right? Blog dot author. Right. Then we'll open our tags and we'll close our tags after this. And everything we have, we'll put in between this. Great. So now we have done everything in one go. Let's see if this works. Alright, so there's one problem. If we are not currently logged in, current user will not actually show up. So I'll do if current user and so this will check if we are actually logged in or not, right? So I'll refresh. And you see I don't get the update and delete buttons here, right? But, so this post is by John Doe, right? So let me log in as John Doe. And I pressed enter by mistake. Password. If I go to this post now, okay, so I need to do dot underscore id here because the author has been populated. Dot id, right? So now as John Doe, I am getting the buttons here. But if I log out again and I log in again as John Doe 1, password, read more, I do not get the buttons. So now you can see the update and delete can only be done by the owner of the page, right? And nobody else. Great. And let's just check if that is happening fine for the owner. So I'll log in again as John Doe. Password will be password. Read more. Update post. Test 1 underscore 1. Update post. And it is updated. So the owner can now change whatever he wants to change, right? So this was for the blogs, and that's basically all that we need to do for the authentication. The next thing we can do is we can add a similar thing to the comments, right? So we'll just do that real quick now, right? So what we have is inside the blogs.js, we have this function. So I'll copy this whole function. I'll paste this inside the comments.js file. And now what I need to do is, instead of found blog, I need to have comment. And wherever I find this found blog, I'll change this to, alright, so this is in a lot of places, I'll not change this probably. So I'll change this to found comment, right? So one more thing, we need to do comment ID here. If you remember in the route, right? The delete route, this was comment ID, excellent, and the C was small. So everything seems fine except this. So this is the isowner function that we need, and we can just add this in here, right? Isowner. Great. And the next thing we can do is inside the show.ejs, where's this? This is basically the form which is handling our delete. So what I can do is I can copy this if statement. I can put it here. And I can change comment dot author, right? Great. So if this is true, then we have to do all of this. Otherwise, we don't have to do any of this. Let's refresh again. And I see this vanishes because I'm not logged in currently. So let's log in as John Doe and let's see what I'm getting. I'm getting these two, but I'm not getting the delete comment, right? So now I can log in as John Doe 1. I'll do a password. I'll go here. So we need to have dot equals here. And the reason behind that is I also use dot equals in one more place, is that basically this comment dot author is an actual object ID, right? The type is object ID, but the current user dot underscore ID is kind of a string right now. So I mean, they are not of the same type. So whenever you're comparing two different IDs, when one you are comparing direct from the user schema and one you are comparing from the model, then you need to have dot equals in between, right? And that will work. So it now gives you this button, and as John Doe, this would not show up. I'll go to read more, and the button does not show up. So now you can see how we have like done the author thing to the whole thing. And I know this is a little confusing, but if you try to read this again, or if you try to watch this whole video, you'll get this what I've done here, because this is a little tricky for the first time, but anyway, it was done, right? Alright, great. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.